The merchants of Nexus Station didn't look at faces. They looked at credit chips, viable body parts, and profit margins. Villara knew this as she stood in the dingy prosthetics shop. Her weight shifted awkwardly to her remaining leg, her rigid posture betraying both pride and pain. 15,000 credits for the basic model, the Thracian shopkeeper muttered, barely glancing at the empty space below her left knee. 20 for the articulated joint, nothing customized for less than 35. Villara's jaw tightened, the violet markings along her silver skin pulsing slightly, a physiological response her species, the Nelthians, displayed when suppressing emotion. The basic model would hardly support her weight properly, much less allow her to move with any semblance of her former grace. But 35,000 credits might as well have been 35 million. "I'll take the basic," she said, her melodic voice deliberately flattened. Warriors didn't show disappointment, even fallen ones. "Your kind usually don't survive losing limbs," the shopkeeper commented indifferently. "Military discharge." Villara didn't answer. 6 standard months ago, she had led an elite border patrol unit along the Krell expanse. Now she couldn't even command the respect of a parts dealer in a second-rate commercial station. The Nilthian military had clear protocols for wounded warriors, rehabilitation for those who could return to peak performance, honorable ceremonial positions for the permanently disabled with distinguished records. She had received neither. Just discharge papers and silence. The shop door hissed open, admitting a gust of recycled station air and a tall human male. Villara assessed him automatically, approximately 6 feet tall, lean but strong build, dark hair cropped short on the sides, but longer on top, olive skin, observant hazel eyes. He carried himself with the casual confidence humans often displayed in alien territories. "Just browsing," he told the suddenly attentive shopkeeper, who clearly recognized potential profit. The human's eyes swept the displays of limbs and augmentations before landing on Villara. She expected the typical human reaction, averted eyes or excessive politeness. Instead, he studied her stance with professional interest. "That model won't work for you," he said directly, nodding toward the basic prosthetic the shopkeeper had begun preparing. Villara's neck frills flared slightly. "I didn't ask for your assessment." "True." He smiled, unoffended. "But I'm offering it anyway. I'm Thomas Alvarez, biomechanical engineer. Those mass-produced legs are calibrated for human or Thracian physiology. Your center of gravity is completely different. And I should care about your opinion because I can build you something better." He stepped closer, his eyes not on her missing limb, but on her face. "Something that wouldn't just let you walk, but move like you used to." The shopkeeper interjected. "Off-catalog work requires permits, human, and deposits." Thomas ignored him. "What's your name?" Something in his direct gaze made Villara answer, despite herself. "Villara and Talos, formerly squad commander, 3rd Expeditionary Force." "Well, Commander," Thomas said, "I have a proposition for you. Let me build you a leg worthy of a warrior, one that remembers how to run." For the first time since the border skirmish, Villara felt something dangerous kindling inside her chest. Not hope, hope was for fools, but curiosity, perhaps, or defiance. "And what would you want in return?" she asked, her voice low and suspicious. Thomas smiled again, and this time Villara noticed the small scar bisecting his left eyebrow. "A chance to test some new designs, and maybe—" He paused, considering his words carefully. "A story worth telling when I return to Earth." Around them, the station hummed with commerce and indifference. But between them, something had shifted, like gravity finding a new center. Thomas's workshop occupied a repurposed cargo hold in Nexus Station's engineering sector. Unlike the sterile medical facilities or profit-driven prosthetic shops, this space breathed creativity. Holographic designs rotating above workbenches, components sorted in transparent containers along magnetic walls, and a constant soft whir of calibration tools. Vilara sat rigidly on an examination platform, watching Thomas's hands move efficiently as he took measurements of her residual limb. Most engineers would start with standard proportions, he explained, his focus unwavering. But your species has a unique skeletal density. The tibia equivalent in Nilthians contains those incredible shock-absorbing fibers. How do you know this? Vilara questioned, her suspicion not entirely gone despite agreeing to his proposition. Thomas glanced up, a half-smile forming. 3 years designing emergency field medicine tech for the Allied systems. I've worked on 17 different species. His scanner hummed as it created a 3-dimensional map of her leg. Though I've never met a Nilthian warrior before. Former warrior, she corrected, the words bitter as Krellin ash fruit. His hands paused briefly. Tell me about how you moved before. Not just walking or running. Everything. For a moment, Vilara remained silent, but something in his genuine interest broke through her defenses. We trained from childhood in gravitational adaptation. My specialty was low-atmosphere combat. Jumping from heights, rapid directional changes, sustained hovering strikes. As she spoke, Thomas began sketching on a holographic display. The basic outline of a prosthetic limb took shape, far more elegant than the clunky models from the shop. Show me with your hands, he encouraged. The motion of the hovering strike. Hesitantly at first, then with growing animation, Vilara demonstrated the fluid movements. Her hands carved precise arcs through the air, her body unconsciously shifting as muscle memory awakened. That's it, Thomas murmured, adjusting his design. Your people evolved in lower gravity than humans. The prosthetic needs to honor that heritage. Hours passed as they worked together, the technical discussion gradually giving way to more personal exchange. Thomas spoke of Earth, of oceans and mountains Vilara had never seen. She found herself sharing stories of Nilthian training grounds, of night jumps under triple moons. Your military discarded a significant investment, Thomas observed as he calibrated a joint mechanism. Seems inefficient. Vilara's neck frills flattened, a sign of discomfort humans often misinterpreted. My people believe in perfection of form, a damaged warrior. She didn't finish. Seems short-sighted, he replied, then glanced up, catching her eyes. Their loss is my gain. Something warm and unfamiliar fluttered in Vilara's chest. For the first time, she studied Thomas not as a service provider, but as a man. The concentration in his eyes, the capable hands, the respectful way he touched her when taking measurements. Tomorrow we'll test the preliminary fitting, he said, standing and stretching. The movement lifted his shirt slightly, revealing a scar across his abdomen. Vilara found herself asking, "Your injury?" Thomas looked down, as if remembering. Mining colony disaster on Ceres. Learned firsthand what poor design costs. His eyes met hers again. That's why I don't cut corners. As she prepared to leave, balancing on her temporary prosthetic, Thomas stepped closer than strictly necessary. Vilara, he said, her name sounding different in his human accent. This isn't charity. This is collaboration. She paused at the doorway, turning back. Why me, Thomas? Truly. His answer was simple, but sent an unexpected current through her. Because I recognize something in you. The way you stand despite everything. Some things can't be measured with scanners. That night, alone in her sparse quarters, Vilara dreamed not of battle or failure, but of running across open terrain, whole and free, and not alone. Again, Thomas instructed, standing in the cleared center of the workshop, arms ready to catch Vilara if needed. She nodded, determination etched into every line of her silver face. A prototype prosthetic gleamed under the lights, its biomechanical components humming softly as she took another step. Then another. The fusion of Nilthian-inspired design and Thomas's engineering responded to her muscle signals, moving as a natural extension of her body. Good, he encouraged. Now try the pivot. Vilara attempted the maneuver, a warrior's turn used to reverse direction instantly during combat. For a moment, the prosthetic responded perfectly. Then something in the calibration faltered. She felt herself losing balance, instinctively reaching out. Thomas moved forward, catching her against his chest. His arms encircled her waist, steadying her with surprising strength. "I've got you," he said, his voice closer to her ear than it had ever been. Neither moved immediately. Vilara became intensely aware of his heartbeat, slightly faster than normal, the heat of his body different from a Nilfian's. His hands at her waist were respectful but firm. "I shouldn't have attempted that sequence yet," she said, pulling away reluctantly. "No, that's exactly what you should be doing," Thomas countered, his hands lingering a moment before releasing her. "Pushing boundaries is how we perfect the design." He knelt to examine the prosthetic, adjusting something in the knee joint. Vilara found herself looking down at the top of his head, at the careful way his fingers worked. "On my world," she said quietly, "no one would touch a fallen warrior like that. With care." Thomas looked up, his expression serious. "Then your world is missing something important." They resumed training, but something had shifted between them. Each adjustment to the prosthetic now felt intimate, his hands guiding her movements, teaching her body to trust the new limb. When he supported her through a complicated balancing exercise, his palm pressed against her lower back, Vilara felt a response that had nothing to do with physical therapy. "You're overthinking," Thomas observed as they took a break. He handed her a container of electrolyte fluid formulated for Nilfian physiology. "My people don't overthink. We act." "Then act," he challenged softly. Vilara studied him, this human who had spent countless hours crafting not just a new leg, but a new possibility for her. Without her military restraint, without her species formality, what would she do? The answer came as she reached out, her fingers lightly tracing the scar above his eyebrow. Thomas remained perfectly still, only his pupils dilating slightly. "Where did you get this one?" she asked. "Engineering accident. Testing the very first prototype of the technology we're using now. You risked yourself for your work." "For what I believe in," he corrected. His hand rose, covering hers where it rested against his face. "Some things are worth the risk." The workshop's automated systems chose that moment to announce an incoming station alert. They stepped apart, the moment suspended rather than broken. That evening, as Thomas made final adjustments to the prosthetic, their fingers brushed repeatedly. Neither commented on the growing tension, on the way their bodies seemed to find reasons to move into each other's space. "Tomorrow we'll test the full range of motion," Thomas said as she prepared to leave, "including your hovering strike." Vilara felt something she hadn't experienced since before her injury: anticipation. "I'll be ready," she promised, and knew she wasn't just talking about the physical challenge. The message arrived while Thomas was reinforcing the ankle component of Vilara's prosthetic. Her communicator pulsed with the official insignia of the Nilfian Military Command. "Is everything all right?" Thomas asked, noticing her sudden stillness. Vilara's violet markings flashed rapidly as she processed the contents. "Lieutenant Commander Daxar Anvorin has issued a formal challenge." Her voice carried disbelief. "He's here, on Nexus Station." Thomas set down his tools. "What kind of challenge?" "Combat assessment. It's a traditional method to evaluate fitness for duty." Her eyes met his. "He was my second in command. Now he leads my former unit." Understanding dawned on Thomas's face. "This is your chance for reinstatement." Velara's laugh held no humor. "Or his chance to publicly confirm my disgrace." She gestured to the partially assembled prosthetic. "The challenge is tomorrow at Station Dawn. Then we work through the night," Thomas stated simply, already reaching for his calibration tools. Hours blurred together as they pushed to complete what should have taken days. Thomas's hands moved with precision born of urgency, making adjustments, testing connections. Vilara remained beside him, learning each component, understanding her new limb as she once had known her weapons. Near station midnight, exhaustion finally forced them to pause. Thomas rubbed his eyes, blinking away fatigue. "We should rest," Villara suggested, though she made no move to leave. "Just a few more calibrations," he insisted. She placed her hand over his, stilling his movements. "Thomas, you've done enough." When he looked up, she saw in his eyes what she'd been feeling. The connection that had grown between them, transcending their different worlds, their different forms. "I haven't," he whispered. "Not yet." Villara moved first, closing the distance between them. Her hand cupped his face, thumb tracing the contour of his cheekbone. Thomas remained perfectly still, his breathing shallow. "My people believe warriors should face important battles after connecting with life's energy," she said softly. "We call it Nfashira, the grounding before flight." His hand rose to mirror hers, fingers gentle against her silver skin. "What does that involve?" In answer, Villara leaned forward, pressing her lips to his. The kiss began tentatively, an exploration of differences, the warmth of human lips against the slightly cooler temperature of Nilthian skin. Then Thomas responded, his hand sliding to the back of her neck, drawing her closer. When they separated, his eyes held a mixture of wonder and desire. Without words, they moved to the small rest area of the workshop. There, on the narrow cot where Thomas had snatched brief moments of sleep during their project, they discovered each other. His fingers traced the patterns of her violet markings as they pulsed with emotion. She explored the unfamiliar terrain of human skin, finding unexpected sensitivity in places her own species lacked. Their bodies found harmony despite their differences, his solid human form complementing her more lithe Nilthian physiology. Afterward, as station night cycled toward dawn, they lay entwined, the prosthetic leg resting nearby, completed and ready. "Whatever happens tomorrow," Thomas murmured against her shoulder, "remember that you're already whole." Villara turned in his arms, studying his face as if memorizing it. "Because of the leg?" "No," he said, touching her chest above her heart. "Because of this, it never broke." As dawn approached, they returned to work, making final adjustments, not as engineer and patient now, but as partners facing that challenge together. The challenge arena occupied Nexus Station's multipurpose combat training facility. A small crowd had gathered, curious station personnel, off-duty military from various species, and the entire complement of Villara's former unit, standing rigidly in Nilthian military formation. Lieutenant Commander Daxar waited in the center, his tall frame imposing in formal combat attire. His violet markings seemed particularly bright against his silver skin, a sign of heightened emotional state carefully controlled. "Former Commander Antalos," he announced formally as Villara entered. "You accept the terms of this assessment." Villara stepped forward, her new prosthetic moving in perfect synchronization with her natural leg. From the observation area, Thomas watched, outwardly calm despite his racing heart. "I accept," Villara replied, her voice carrying throughout the arena. The assessment began with basic mobility tests, walking patterns, directional changes, stability under pressure. Villara completed each with a fluid grace that drew murmurs from the audience. Daxar's expression remained impassive, though his markings pulsed with what might have been surprise. "Proceed to combat readiness evaluation," he commanded. A series of holographic opponents materialized, attacking from multiple angles. Villara responded with movements she hadn't performed in 6 months. Dodging, counter-striking, pivoting. The prosthetic responded to her neural signals instantaneously, its design allowing for the unique Nilthian fighting style that depended on burst acceleration and mid-air adjustments. For the final test, Daxar himself stepped forward, ceremonial staff in hand. "Hovering strike sequence," he ordered. Full combat intensity. A collective intake of breath came from the Nilthian observers. This was the most demanding physical sequence in their combat repertoire. The very maneuver Villara had been performing when she lost her leg. Her eyes found Thomas briefly. He nodded once, his belief in her evident even from a distance. The combat sequence began. Daxar's staff cutting precise arcs through the air. Valera responded, her body remembering what her mind had tried to forget. When the moment came for the hovering strike, she launched herself upward, the prosthetic's specialized servos providing the exact thrust needed. For 3 heartbeats, she seemed to hang suspended, defying gravity before descending with perfect control to land the decisive strike. Silence fell across the arena. Then, following tradition, Daxar placed his staff on the ground and bowed. "Assessment complete," he stated formally. "Commander Intalos demonstrates full combat readiness." The Nilthian contingent saluted in unison, the honor reserved for a warrior of proven worth. Later, as the station cycled toward evening, Valera found Thomas in his workshop, already packing equipment. "The military command has offered reinstatement," she said without preamble. "Full rank restoration." Thomas continued organizing his tools, his back to her. "Congratulations. You've earned it." I declined. His hand stilled. Slowly, he turned to face her. "Why?" Valera moved closer, her movement perfectly balanced and confident. "Because I've discovered a different path." She gestured around the workshop. "What we've created here, it's needed throughout the systems, not just for warriors, but for anyone seeking restoration." "I've received an offer too," Thomas admitted. "Research position on Earth. Prestigious. Well-funded. Will you take it?" Their eyes held, the question encompassing far more than career choices. "Not without a partner who understands both the technical and spiritual aspects of rebuilding," he answered, reaching for her hand. Valera's markings pulsed with an emotion her military training had never prepared her for. "I might know someone suitable." 1 year later, on a small but thriving outpost at the crossroads of 3 major space lanes, the Alvarez and Talos Restoration Center opened its doors. Warriors, explorers, and civilians from across the systems came seeking not just replacement parts, but renewed purpose. In their private quarters adjacent to the center, Thomas added the finishing touches to a new design, a specialized prosthetic for Calarian deep-sea explorers. "What do you think?" he asked as Valera entered, her movement so natural now that new clients never guessed her left leg wasn't original. She studied the design, then looked at the man who had given her back not just mobility but possibility. "I think some creations restore more than physical function." As he drew her into his arms, their bodies fitting together across the boundaries of different worlds, different biologies, Thomas whispered, "The best engineering doesn't just replace what was lost. It builds something that never existed before." Outside their window, ships arrived from distant systems, carrying those in need of restoration. Inside, in the space between human ingenuity and Nilthian warrior spirit, something new continued to grow. A partnership that had become its own kind of legend.